G'day guys and welcome back. So this episode we are going to be focusing on the session breakdown. Now, for those of you that have missed our previous exercise on the training structure breakdown, please click on that tab just there. That will take you to it. Of course, if you are new to all of this, please make sure we have gone in order. So the previous one from that was our app navigation. If you haven't watched that, please click up there. And our very first episode, which was our setup or intro, please, you know what to do. Other than that, guys, let's get started with the session breakdown. So guys, the session breakdown, this is the crux, the bread and butter of what you're going to be doing. We've just learned what sets and reps are, what our RPEs, what our RMs are, and all the other measurements. I don't know how it's all going to be listed, or I went over very briefly how it's going to be listed, and then of course what the difference between the groupings are, so sets and exercises and circuits. But now let's run through what the actual app is doing, what our session, our daily session is going to look like. So starting off, number one, we're going to start the session. So let's click on that. We hit the start button. We are going to be logging our pre-readiness. So our pre-readiness, guys, this is just 5 basic questions that we go through. As you can see here, I'm just going to scroll through nice and quick, but you are just logging how you feel. So make sure that you answer how you're feeling today, not answering how, like comparing yourself to yesterday, comparing yourself to how you should usually feel. Don't compare yourself to anything other than how you feel right now and today. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. From there, number 3, our coach's notes for the sessions. Guys, this is obviously on a very individual level, very, very important. This is going to go through our overall aim for the session, what our goal is, what our focus points are, what we can cut away with if we need to cut away, anything important, intensities, what we're trying to achieve if we're learning something. Some sessions, guys, are going to be very note dense and heavy. It's going to require you to read them. Others, if it's just a repeat effort, it'll just be a couple touch points. Okay, but there's a coach's notes. This is specific to you guys or specific to the session. So say you're doing this with a friend and they're on the same program, you may find that you have slightly different notes to them, okay? So it's very important that we go through, read this individually, absorb it. If there's any questions, boom, shoot them through. Nice and easy. Number 4, the warm-up, activation, and prep phase. So as I said in our previous video as well, guys, you are going to get used to the circuit format because our warm-up and activation is always done via the circuit format. And all this is, guys, is as you can see, we have our how many rounds we need to do, how many exercises, the different exercises that there are, and then how many reps, just down there on that left-hand sort of column. And then you'll always see that there are videos down the bottom pertaining to those exercises if they are not self-explanatory enough. If I know that you need more video prompts, I'll put more of them in there, okay? Next up, number 5, exercises and groupings, single set, superset. So we did touch on this in the last episode. However, this is just what it looks like. So this is actually what it looks like within the app as well. So when we click on it, so you can see here that we have the exercises. You can see if we scroll up or down, how many, essentially if it's a superset, a triset, how many exercises are grouped up in there. Okay, you can then look at the reps and sets. So how many reps we need to do, how many sets, which are denoted here and here. And then you can also see this other column, which is going to be 9 times out of 10 weight. But we might also have RPE, blah, 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 whatever it might be. Now, guys, depending on the exercise, that column will change. So for example, if I had a plank in there would be, rather than reps, it would be time. And if I'm not saying that I will, but if I wanted to put weight on there, I'd have a weight down the other side. In the notes, I'd say, hey, pop a 5 kilo plate on your shoulder blades or your back. Okay, so that's just an example of how those sort of data fields can change and then obviously prompt you to log that data. The next thing is making sure that we have a look at the exercise notes. So these are going to be specific to you, much like the coach's instructions are specific to you. So are the exercise notes. So it might be in there, for example, last week you said that you were struggling to get to 90 degrees. Let's try and back the weight off slightly today and aim for lower. Or let's go through more prep work or warm-up sets in order to achieve that desired depth. Okay, so that would be the specifics for you, and then also the outcome. So it might be like we have back squat on there, but today we're looking to really increase the concentric phase, so the up phase, standing up in the back squat. We want to work on a bit more velocity, so we're going to focus on that force production coming out of the bottom of the squat. All of that kind of stuff. So it'll be specific for you. And likewise, if you're doing this with your friend, we might be focusing on, okay, so your back squat today is actually tempo work. We're going to be going slow down. So we're taking our time coming down on that squat. So we have a slower tempo. So you can see there how those sort of things change, guys. From there, we then have our exercise demo and basic note. You might find that there are a few good little technique or cues in those videos. So don't be afraid to have a watch, guys, all right? Now, there are some old videos that I've done from back in 2018 where they're just, a couple of reps of the exercise. What I'm slowly doing is I'm building out this exercise library where I'm actually going through and cueing you the entire time. So the basic cues, there may be a few things that aren't pertinent or that are pertinent to you, but I am going through and I'm building this out, guys. So there is probably going to be a lot of benefit for you actually watching these, especially with some of the exercises which are super common. And again, if I want you to watch them, I'll say, hey, watch the video for me. Some of them do go for can go up to 5 minutes, guys. So good to watch that while you're warming up. Okay, so we can see there that is our exercise demo, and there could also be some very basic notes. Now, if you click on the video on the exercise and it also shows you those notes are broad basic notes. They are not specific to you. This is something that when I create the exercise and I drop the video in, I put basic global notes. So stuff that should be pertinent to everybody. There may be nuances. You may have some hip tightness, or you may have one leg longer than the other. So we would need to work on those specifics in your exercise notes right at the front. So before we start clicking on stuff, that will be where you get your specifics. But if you click on the video and then you go into the exercise notes, that will just be global. Okay, that's not specific to you. You may find it specific, but just keep that in mind. Okay, so there's going to be there's going to be your exercise notes for you in your program. But if we keep going deeper, it gets more basic. Okay. From there, number 8, our logging. So I harped on this hard on the last one, guys, and I'm going to harp on again. You need to log everything, team. Make sure, and this is just what personally works for me, but as you're going through, make sure we are logging. So after you've completed each exercise, so you've done all your sets, so if there's 3 exercises in the one set, you've done all 3, then go through and log. I did X amount of weight, I did X amount of reps, I did this, I did that, I did blah, blah, blah. Log it for me, guys. Make sure you do that every time. It is a great habit to fall into, okay? From there, once we have finished logging that, if we are doing any timed exercises and you don't have a watch, I personally don't wear a watch, I only wear my Whoop. If you do need to log, whatever it might be time, it might be rest intervals. If you want to keep that clock ticking, there is a little clock item right down the bottom. You can then pick what you want to do. So do we want to set up an interval? Do we want to just do a rest time? Are we doing a timed exercise? Whatever it might be, then we can do that there from the little clock. Then from there, we have our moving on, which is just our next button. Okay, guys, so we just hit next once we're done, or you can quite simply slide across. All right, make sure once we have also logged in all those things that all the little circles are green. If you have missed one and you look up there and you see that box is left hollow, then you know, okay, we've just missed logging something. And look, I do it. But when I go to log the next exercise, I'm like, oh, there's a little light, or there's a non-shaded in circle. Boom. No, I know I need to go in and do that. Okay, so just keep an eye on that for me, guys. And then finally, number 11, wrapping up. So our wrap up, guys, is basically making sure that we've gone through and we've completed everything. And then also making sure that we have left our comments in the exercises. So each exercise comment, did it feel good? Did it feel bad? Obviously, if it's neutral, like, yep, it just felt normal, cool. But if there is something that is important, so if you felt a niggle, if you felt really good, like, hey, this is feeling really good, or hey, this is feeling shit, explain it. The more detail you go into, the better. It helps me identify what's gone wrong, or potentially identify, and if it is outside of my control, who to refer you to. If you need to go to a physio, a myo, a chiro, whatever it might be, the more detailed, guys, the more I'm going to be able to help you with there. All right, once we've gone through that, we can then go the session overview. So we're going to see there's the intensity of the session. So how hard did you find that? And again, guys, RPE, how hard did you find it today? Not how hard was this session compared to the last session. How hard was it right now, and how are you feeling right now? All right, intensity, it gives you a little cue there as well. So from very easy to holy dooly hard, you just slide that across. Usually, like I said, guys, my RPE scale, we like to work around that 7 to 8, tough but doable. But just go off that sliding scale, let me know, because you'll be able to see this in the end. The time, make sure the time is correct. So I have a habit of when I'm walking up to the gym, I'll open up my own session, which I created for myself, and I'll go through and I'll read all my notes. If I need to, I'll check out the session. Right, I know I'm going to go boom, boom, boom. This helps me just mentally prepare. All right, that will start the timer. So usually for me, I need to take off 10 minutes of that timer, because I don't count the walk up there, which takes about 10 to 12 minutes. I only count the time in the gym doing the work. So from when I get down to doing my warm-up to when I to when I finish. Likewise, sometimes if I drive, because I've come from somewhere and I drive to the gym, and then I know what warm-up I'm doing, I know what session I'm doing, so I do my warm-up, and then I open up the session, then it will start the timer. So it's like, okay, I know my warm-up usually takes about 10 minutes. Like, so for my stretching, my activation, and priming drills, I know that usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes. So I might just bump that time up by 10 to 15 minutes, if that makes sense. Just make sure the time is relative, because what I will then do is, if you've said to me, hey, I can only do this for 45 minutes, that's all I've got, and I see there's like 60-minute sessions, I'm gonna be like, oh shit, like I'm programming too much, like, or you're not at that point where you can move quick enough yet. But then if I then find out, because we have a chat, like, oh, I'm so sorry that I've done this, we have a chat and you're like, oh, no, I just read it on the way there, or whatever it is. That's where that time gets important, especially if you are like, if you have confined me to your time frame. So it's like, I can't just go do all this. If you're like, yep, I've got an hour per day to do this, I'll make sure that we've got an hour's worth of work. So that time, I do look at that, guys. I look at the time. If you've given me those respective left and right of arcs. And then finally, the session overview. Guys, this can be really brief. Again, if you do go into more detail, even better. But letting me know how the session felt, how the warm-up felt, how you felt beforehand, if you were feeling real stiff, but then once you got into it, you felt really good. Or if you felt stiff at the start of the session and you were feeling stiff the whole way through, okay, cool, then let's have a look at some recovery. If you felt really like low in energy at the start of the session and then it peaked, it got really good towards the end, let me know. Vice versa, if you stayed flat the whole time, because these are going to be indicators from other aspects of life. Is recovery there? Am I pushing you too hard? Are you unable to recover from our previous sessions? So we need to go through a deload. Has the deload been successful? Has our intensity increase been too much? So there's a lot of different factors that we're going to go there. So like I said, guys, the more detail, the more I can help, the more we can really hone in, zone in, and get this dialed, so we are giving you the best program possible. All right, guys, that was the session breakdown. For now, these are all the videos that I have. This is a complete wrap on everything that we need to do, guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. This is going to help. Should be the only time you need to watch this. If there is anything else I can help with, guys, if you need a video for anything else, please comment below for me. I'd really appreciate that. And if you want to know where all those videos are kept, so for all your exercise demonstrations, they will always come back to YouTube. So we are going to have the exercise demonstrations here on the left, and we are going to have the common mistakes playlist here on the right. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for hanging around. Really appreciate you, and thank you so much.